Growing up near Cedar Falls, Iowa, Jay Allen developed a deep passion for music, influenced by his father's rock concerts and his mother's heartfelt country tunes along long car rides. Now, after moving to Nashville in 2013, Jay's dedication to country music led him to sign a publishing deal in 2014 and secure an artist deal 2 years later. Now, while Jay's career was already climbing upward, it was his 2018 hit single, Blank Stares, that propelled him into the national spotlight. A powerful tribute to his mother, who battled early onset Alzheimer's disease, and the video became a viral sensation with over 500 million views on Facebook. Now, his commitment to raising awareness for the Alzheimer's Association has been unwavering, and the song has gone on to raise over $100 million to help fight the disease. Then it was Jay Allen's appearance on season 22 of The Voice that showcased his exceptional talent, earning chair turns from both Blake Shelton and Gwen Stefani. This pivotal moment further propelled his career and solidified his position as a rising star in the music industry. With new hit singles out right now, let's welcome country recording artist and an advocate for Alzheimer's disease, the voice himself, Jay Allen, to the show. Welcome, Jay.
Thanks, Dr. Ward. Appreciate y'all having me today.
Oh, absolutely. How old were you when you got interested in music?
Oh, man, how much time we got today? Very, very long story short, I grew up in a little town in Iowa. My dad owned a restaurant. His name was Joe. Thus, he called it Joe's Country Grill. It's like a little country cafe. And there was actually a couple that would come in every morning and would invite my parents to church. And eventually they started working on me, and they started picking me up and taking me to Sunday school when I was 4 years old. And one morning we're in this big Baptist church. We always had to sit in the front row in the front pew. And apparently I was singing obnoxiously. And Ron, the guy, he looked down, he patted me on the head, and he said, "Oh, Jay, you can sing. I'm going to put you up in front of everyone tomorrow morning or Sunday morning." And he did. I was terrified, but that was my first experience seeing people respond to my voice. And it kind of just stuck with me, whether they were just obliging me because I was a little kid or not. It impacted my young life, and I ended up going on to be a music director at a mega church in Savannah, Georgia. And I did the Christian artist thing. And again, long story short, I ended up in Nashville 10 years ago. I moved there with a suitcase and a guitar to my name and didn't know anyone. There was a older couple that lived right outside of Nashville. A pastor friend of mine had introduced us. They had never met me, only heard about me, and they had an in-law suite in the back of their house, and they let me stay there for free for the first 3 months in Nashville. It was the only way I was allowed to get on my feet. I would literally write a check for rent and put it in their kitchen once a month at the top of the month, and they would rip it up and put it back in my kitchen. And I call them my angels. I'm not sure I could have, got, my feet on solid ground in Nashville without that moment. So following that, it just, anything, any industry, it's all about creating relationships and making friends and finding your circle and your champions. And so I did that, and worked my butt off. And before I know it, I got a publishing deal, and that turned into a management deal, and eventually led to me, writing a song for my mother. And that's a whole nother story. But my mother got sick with what's called early onset Alzheimer's. It took her life in 2 years and 9 months, and wrecked my world. But I wrote a song about it out of heartbreak and out of therapy for myself, for no one else. And it's just the way I believe God works. I won't preach, but I will share my faith. I believe God has a plan for all of us if we so desire to follow it. And his plan for me was to write that song and to help others. And Alzheimer's is the sixth leading cause of death in America, and I get to talk about it every day, and I get to share that song. It's done a lot of good. Like you said, we've helped raise over $100 million, and we've had a really good last year. I partnered with the National Alzheimer's Association a long time ago, and we're doing a lot of good, and we're making moves now. So we have treatments available, and then I got a phone call from The Voice. So really, to be completely honest, they called me a couple years in a row, and I politely declined until last year. And I thought, it kind of hit me. I think timing is impeccable, and I thought, what better way to put more eyes and ears on this fight against this disease that stole my mother's life than to go on NBC's The Voice and be in front of millions of people. So I finally said yes, worked with the producers, and they let me share the song Blank Stares. And talk about my mother's story. And Blank Stares, that song went #1 on iTunes. I come back home and I got a call from the head of a record label, and he offered me a record deal. And some really cool news. We just found out we're going to take another song that I wrote called No Present Like the Time. I actually wrote it while I was on The Voice filming the show. We released it last year, and we just found out the label is going to take it to country radio next month. So I think this is one of the first times I've shared that. But it's kind of just a full circle moment for me where it never was about me trying to get famous. It started out of heartbreak and me trying to use my pain and my story of loss to help others and do good. So I believe we're doing that now. So I'm really proud of it.
Yeah, I mean, now you mentioned because your mother had early onset Alzheimer's. Um, isn't that highly unusual that um, she passed just a little more than 2 years later?
It is very unusual. It's very rare. That's why they call it early onset, because she was so young. Looking back now, I wish we would have caught it sooner because, we believe she was showing signs of dementia in her 40s, and now we have treatments available where if you get tested and diagnosed soon enough, you can basically stall the onset. I wish we would have had that back then, but we didn't. But yeah, it is rare, and it progressed quickly for her. And I had to make that terrible call to put her in a care facility center, and pay for that and all those hard things. And I think that was kind of the end for her. She kind of threw in the towel and knew, we're about done. And so she lasted about 6 weeks in the care facility center. So it went very quickly for us. But like grass is always greener. I get to hear everyone's stories, and I will be the last person in line at the merch booth, and strangers will lay their head on my shoulders and cry and tell me their stories. And the ones I feel like that hurt the most are when it takes them over a slower period of time. Some people say, we suffered for 10 years before she got to go home to heaven, or whatever their story is. And for us, I'm kind of glad it went quickly. But yes, to answer your question, it is pretty
Yeah, I
rare.
mean, and I haven't heard a case that went so quickly before. And my grandmother um, passed away from Alzheimer's, and hers was, that long, lingering journey. And of course, she was a lot older. But Alzheimer's is not only devastating to the one that has it, it's very devastating and becomes a hardship for a lot of the families because they end up being caregivers 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Yes, that has become a big part of my passion and my heart is to shine light on caregivers. And caregivers don't really want light shined on them, and that's why they are caregivers, because they have that humble character, that selfless mindset where there's no other option. My loved one is, basically dying slowly. I'm going to have to take care of them. So we were actually part of a film called Unconditional. My friend Richard Liu works for MSNBC. He reached out when he heard my story, and he shared that his dad had passed away from Alzheimer's, and while he was, a face on this, huge network, he also had to be his dad's full-time caregiver. So he would work in New York City on the weekends and then fly back to San Francisco to take care of his dad during the week, and he did that for like 3 years. He filmed the whole thing. He documented it along with two other stories of two other caregivers and their families, and they made this beautiful film called Unconditional. And then he so kindly reached out to me and asked if I would write a song for this film. And I actually woke up in the middle of the night and I realized I had already written this song called Break from Broken. And we got this crazy phone call where First Lady Biden invited us to come to the White House. And we got to preview the movie for the first time in the president's private movie theater. And I'm sitting in the second row in this movie theater, and I realized there's a young boy next to me with his dad. And at the very end of the film, they announced that one of the caregiver's wives, she had passed away as they rolled the credits and played my song. And that's kind of when it hit me, like, how important it is to talk about caregivers even more so, because they take the brunt of it. The people that are sick, obviously it's important, that we love them and take care of them. But, they don't have to experience that loss, that we do, and suffer as much as we do as caregivers. So a big part of what I do is shine light on them.
Well, I'm glad for that because even last week I had a interview uh, with someone whose husband had Lewy body dementia, which
Mm.
is second only to Alzheimer's, but only because it's so very, very difficult to diagnose, and that they believe that many of the Alzheimer's cases out there today, there are people that actually have Lewy body dementia but have not been diagnosed with that form because many doctors are not uh, trained to the point to actually see the true differences between the two. But dementia in this country is I it's almost to me where it's becoming too much of a silent epidemic. And I stand with you, Jay, that more and more research needs to be poured in to this to not only find better treatment, but in a way really start looking at things that we can do to hopefully prevent it. And
Mm.
because it is detrimental not just to the patient, but very much so to the families, like you have said.
Yeah, we have friends now. Along the way, I've learned there's, and unfortunately, like everything in this world, there's equal good, to bad, and
Oh, no worries. We got post production for that.
sorry about that.
That's all good. You can go ahead and pick up from where you left off.
Yeah, like anything, there's politics involved, and there's people that are money hungry, and um, uh, you know, literally lost my train of thought because of that. Shoot.
It's all good.
Go. Yeah, post
That's why we
production. Yeah,
pre-record everything.
yeah. Where are we at again? Hit me back.
Well, hold on a second. Let me find a break point here. I'm trying to remember what I actually asked you. Um, oh, with the fact that okay, let me start here. Uh, more. I agree with you, Jay, that there needs to be more research done in the areas of dementia, and not only for more and better therapies and better treatment, but also to look at possible ways to uh, prevent dementia as we age, and because this is not only going to help the patients, but it's also going to help the families too.
Yeah, along the way, we've made friends with a lot of people that have shared their stories with us, and we've actually come across stories, and I know it's rare, and I think people may just not be brave enough to share their stories, but we have friends now that have proven that they've reversed their dementia. We actually made friends with a lady in Kansas City. I won't say her name right now because we're working on something behind the scenes, but she wants to share that story. And, they're little things. It's nutrition, it's exercise, it's mental brain and engagement, it's socializing, it's all these, not using microwaves, believe it or not, like all these little things. She just did all of them, and it reversed her dementia, and she's free and clear of it somehow by God's grace as well. But she wants to share that story, and we want to start sharing that story. Unfortunately, there's a lot of people in the world, that are, there's politics behind everything. People are money hungry, and people out there make money off of this disease, which sucks, and that's sad to say, but that's the facts. And they don't want us to share that story. So I actually have a goal. I'm working on a tour right now, and the theme is going to be called Night of Hope Tour, where we actually share this lady's story. And our message is going to be there's actually ways that you can reverse dementia and Alzheimer's. It's not just going to be about raising money to find a cure, which I will always be a part of that, and I pray in our lifetime we see that. But it's like, what can you actually do? We have power in our hands to change the trajectory of the longevity of our life. So let's do that and let's share that story. So
No,
yeah,
I,
man.
I agree, and I have read research studies, and it's kind of strange that you and I are talking today about Alzheimer's because my doctorate was actually in brain nutrition. And
Mm.
what a lot of people don't realize as people get older, those some people that are showing signs of dementia come to find out they don't actually have dementia. Some that may be wheelchair bound, some that may be um bound to a bed, and they don't move a lot. Sometimes an undiagnosed urinary tract infection actually mimics dementia. So if the urinary tract infection is not taken care of in the elderly, they actually start showing signs of what most doctors would actually classify as dementia. But once that infection is cleared up, they don't have dementia anymore. So there is a lot of areas of the body. And I love the fact that here is someone that you met that focused on nutrition and exercise, things that she knew that she could do. And here she is with her memory back.
Hmm. Yeah, they call it a miracle, but I mean, maybe a little bit, but I mean, you know the facts. You know, you're educated. You know, like she just did the things. You know, and I think our culture, we don't. You know, we kind of live in a lazy culture where we don't really want to do those things. We just want to take a pill, and yeah,
Yeah.
and, sometimes that's the answer, but I think a lot of the times it's actually not. So, you know, watching my mother go through that, obviously. Your parents, they're the center of your world or where you come from, and it completely wrecked me, and it kind of to the point scared me to educate myself enough to realize I need to take care of myself. So I've applied those things to my life as well. I try not to miss a day in the gym. I try to eat right, and always am, even just playing chess every day or something to engage my brain. Songwriting engages my mind as well. So just to stay on my game, and also again to share that with others as much as possible, I think is important. So
Yeah,
yeah.
I completely agree. I mean, one of the best things for the brain is actually learning music. And you probably know the story of Glenn Campbell, who passed away with Alzheimer's. But the very last thing that he lost was actually the ability to play the guitar. That was his last thing. So music has a very uh, powerful effect on the brain, and even it doesn't matter what age you are. If people start learning to play some type of musical instrument, uh, it actually starts to remap the brain and create new nerve pathways that will benefit them as they get older.
Yep. I remember his wife and daughter shared that story with me, and we're just all shocked. We do an event in Nashville with Kimberly Paisley, the famous actress, and her husband is Brad Paisley, but she does an event in Nashville. It's actually coming up here in November, and I got to meet the Campbells through that, and what wonderful people and what journey they had been on as well. And now he has a museum in Nashville downtown, so his legacy lives on. But I thought that was an incredible story. There is such a power in music. Um, it is really that universal language, and I saw it impact my mother and my family. That's a big part of the story. How I was inspired to write Blank Stares was my father brought her to Nashville, and it was so shocking and jarring and heart wrenching to see my own mother look through me like I was a stranger. We have two options in life: fight or flight. I'm always fight, but that day I was flight, and I had to get out of there, escape that moment. We took her to a well-known venue in Nashville called the Cellar Saloon, and walked in. There was a band playing, and she heard the music. And most people who have dementia or Alzheimer's, at that point their kind of eyes gloss over and they're not really present, they're not really with you. And when my mother saw that band and heard that music, that changed, and she walked in and she wanted to dance and be a part of it. So we started slow dancing to a fast song, and I felt her take a deep breath. She leaned in, and she just goes, "Jay, oh, I've missed you. It's so good to be here. I love you, son." And music did that. For a second I had my mother back because of music. And man, I could talk till I'm blue in the face to try to prove that. So I decided to show it. I brought my mother on stage when she was really sick in front of a big crowd, opening up for a big country artist, and we showed them, and it was a beautiful moment. And thank God I did that, because, like I said, we've gone on to do some beautiful things. But man,
And
this
have
this
you
thing
been
is great.
amazed by just God's hand upon you and his grace and giving you these multiple platforms to really not only just showcase your music, but to really showcase and to bring a bigger light to the fight that it's going to take to improve treatments and hopefully one day find a cure for Alzheimer's disease. I mean, you from The
Yeah,
Voice to the White House.
yeah, sometimes I think for a while it felt almost like to be completely human and honest, it felt like a burden. Um, like, obviously I'm going to do this. I'm going to go to war against this disease on my mother's deathbed. I made that promise to her. Um, but like, why am I that guy? And it always felt pretty heavy for a long time until recently I decided, you know what an honor, to be at the forefront of this battle that so many people have to endure, and so many people don't have a voice. So um, I'm going to be that voice for them, and I'm going to continue to share that story. And like I said,
Well,
I don't know. I pray that we see a cure in our lifetime, and generations to come don't have to experience this. But even if I don't experience that in my lifetime, I take great joy that I have the opportunity to help people through music and through my mother's story.
well, all I can tell you, Jay, is embrace it, embrace the fact that that you are one of the voices talking about Alzheimer's, and we congratulate you for that. And I know that right now you have a few brand new singles out. You mentioned one, No Present Like the Time. What's the meaning behind that song?
Yeah, so I touched base on this a little bit earlier, but when I was filming The Voice, I don't know if a lot of people know this, but they film it right outside of Hollywood in Burbank, California. And during the filming pre-production process, they put all the contestants, artists, and singers up in a hotel. And we actually, because of COVID on the West Coast, we weren't allowed to leave our rooms for more than 10 minutes per day unless we were filming. And so for me, guy in his 30s, grown man, engaged, planning a wedding. I'm like, I feel pretty trapped, and it felt kind of miserable at first. And then I realized, man, what an opportunity to kind of like sort through things in my mind and in my heart and what's happened the last few years. And I came to the recollection that I'd been pretty miserable. I've been a pretty miserable guy the last few years. And I feel like I kind of had an awakening where, again, not preaching, but sharing my faith. If I do believe, I've said it so many times. I'm not sure I believed it until I chose to believe that I have a mother in heaven. She went home. She's happier than I am. She's, healthy and youthful and all these things that I've been taught growing up. Once you go to heaven, if I believe that, she probably doesn't want me to be sad anymore. She probably wants me to be happy. So I just made that choice. I started thinking, what are the lessons, the life lessons I took from the experience of loss? And I thought about, man, so many times I get a phone call from my little sister or my dad or a friend at the end of the day, and I'm tired and I don't want to, I don't want to pick up, and I don't. Well, how about I do from now on? So I do now. What if a good friend, stabs you in the back? What if you just give them a first or second or third chance and learn how to forgive them and show grace? What if someone invites you to be on a show like this, with you, Dr. Ward? What if you just say yes immediately? I thought about this phrase, there's no time like the present. Well, in my mind, I flipped it. There's no present like the time. Time is such a gift. We only get one spin around this rock, so how about we make the most out of it? So that's where that song came from, and I believe it has such a strong message, and hopefully it reminds people that you only get one go, so just try to be a good person and live it up. So that
It's
song
a
is going to.
great song. I love that song.
Thank you.
Now you have another song that I really, really like, and I think there's a very powerful message in this song called Halfway House. Tells the story of a past love in your life that you had to separate yourself from. How did that experience make you into who you are today?
Yeah, so I honestly, that was another song I wrote that I never intended to release. I was thinking about what I wanted to release towards the end of the year, and my wife Kylie Morgan, she's a country artist as well, my best buddy, my partner. She is. This is why we work. She said, "Well, how about that Halfway House song?" And I kind of laughed out loud. I thought she was kidding, and I was like, "That's about my ex-wife." She goes, "I know, but it's a story that you need to share. It's part of your story, and you've seen that your life stories, if you share them, if you're brave enough, they help people. And so we put a little teaser on social media, and the response and comments were so passionate. I knew I had to release it. And so I'm glad I did, because I think there's a lot of people out there that are trapped in relationships, or they're not being given back the respect and love that they deserve, that they're putting into that relationship. So another hard song to share, but I'm glad I did, and it's not bashing my ex-wife. I truly think she's happy, and I wish nothing but the best on her. But that's part of the story that's now gone on to, if it get, I always say on every stage, I don't care whether I'm in front of 5 people or 12,000, like, I'm sharing this for the right people, and I don't care how many people hear my music. I care that the right people hear my music. So
Well,
I
I
think
love
that
the
the right,
story. Yeah, I love the story inside that song. I mean, uh, you know, are you just halfway into this relationship? And to me, it has one of the best writer's hook that that I've heard in a very long time. And to me, it's
oh,
just got a hit. It's just got a. It's a hit song ready to explode on radio. To me,
oh, thank you. It's very kind of you.
and I love your other the tattoos to heaven. Where did that come from?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm the guy that's covered in tattoos. I always had this sense. It was a weird sense, even as a child, that I was gonna draw on myself. I don't. It just kind of, was part of my destiny, I guess. And then it hit me, okay, like everything I go through in life, big or small, I want to paint it on my body. So when I wake up in the morning, I look in the mirror, I'm reminded of what God brought me through to make me who I am. So that's what they are. They're good moments and they're bad moments, but they're pivotal moments for me. And I now have about 130 hours of tattoos on me, and I wanted just to explain myself why I have these, and the best way that I know how to explain myself is through song. So I wrote this song called "Tattoos to Heaven," and every morning when I go for a run, that's my time to talk to God, and I was just like, man, if you could use this song, kind of cheesy, but honest, if you could use this song to help just one person, that's all I need. Please just let it help one person. And we released it, and I got an email from a guy named Don Caskey, and his email said, "Jay, you don't know me. I just heard your song, Tattoos to Heaven. I wanted to share my story." He said, "I have stage 4 terminal kidney cancer." He said, instead of, basically getting all depressed and, crawling down inside of a hole and shutting everyone out, he decided, you know what? For the time that God gives me, I want to make an impact on the world, and I want to leave my mark. And so he quit his job of 30 years. He took his car and he started traveling across country. And every town that he'd come into, he'd reach out to people and he'd ask if people would want to get a matching tattoo with him. So he, at the point he reached out to me, he had like 279 matching tattoos with strangers all around the world. And so he had 2 questions. He said, number one, can I make tattoos that have my theme song? So every time Don Caskey was on the news, my song "Tattoos to Heaven" would be playing in the background. And then a second question was, would you get a matching tattoo with me? So I said, heck yeah. And so brought him to Nashville. We got matching tattoos, and then he actually followed us to a show in Peoria, Illinois. I brought him on stage in this nice theater, shared our story, and sang the song. And I pulled my shirt to the side to show off the tattoo, and Don took off his entire shirt in front of the whole crowd. It was really funny, and we documented the whole thing, and Don and I became close friends, and um, people.com picked up the story and shared it. And my last experience with Don was he actually came to our wedding in Fort Myers, and this is the type of person he was. He decided I was going to pay for his flight to come to the wedding, but he decided to drive, and he offered to bring all of our things, even like all the alcohol, and drive it all the way back to Nashville. That was just the type of person he was, and that's the last time I saw him. And like I think again, music has an ability to change people's lives, even if it's just one person. It matters. So that's what we're doing out here, brother.
Yeah, there's nothing better than having a strong fan base, and and I've talked to other recording artists, and many of them tell me, especially when after they're done with their set, is to stand there at the merch table and shake hands and thank every fan that comes by because That's what keeps them going. But at the same time, it's the stories that a lot of the fans share with the artist because music changes the world. I mean, it makes the world go around, it creates memories. And for you, you actually covered a Three Doors Down song, which I have to tell you, I think you did it better than they did.
Oh. I don't know about that, but thank you.
Well, I had to listen to it a few times because I'm thinking, wait a minute. So I had to go back and listen to the original cut, and then I came back to yours, and I'm like, nah, Jay actually did it better. But what was funny to me was as I was listening to it very, very closely, I was listening to your voice, and I'm like, wait a minute. There's this. I mean, you have a voice. Not only can you sing country, you got a voice that can literally sing rock because there's this slight tone in your voice that reminds me of Daughtry.
Mm.
And when I hear this Three Doors, when I'm hearing you sing Three Doors Down, I'm like, he could cover a Daughtry song and tear it up.
First of all, that's really kind of you. You're pulling my heartstrings right now. uh, I actually made friends with Daughtry a couple years back. He's actually an advocate for the National Alzheimer's Association as well. I believe he lost his grandmother, so he's done a few things. We met in Nashville, and we've kind of just kept in touch over the last few years. And on The Voice, Blake Shelton actually asked, or I think it was John actually asked me, how do you define your sound? It's probably a question they ask a lot of artists, and I was like, man, I feel like it might be like Chris Daughtry mixed with Blake Shelton, and they liked that one. And Daughtry actually reached out and he heard that. So,
Well,
and then
that means I'm not deaf. That means I
you're
heard
not
it.
there. Yeah, and then he actually my little sister just had her 30th birthday and went to a Daughtry concert, and I reached out and let him know, and he like hung out with her and brought her backstage. And such a sweet guy, but I mean, that's rock and roll has been such an influence on me. And my dad has probably the coolest vinyl collection I've ever seen. He took me to Kansas opening up for Styx when I was 10 years old. That was my first concert ever. And so I love rock and roll, and alternative rock and roll kind of doesn't exist anymore. That like late 90s, mid to late 90s, early 2000s, like Bush and Matchbox 20. I actually just opened up for Matchbox 20 a couple of days ago, which was a dream. But yeah, they've all those guys, and my dad. They've had a big influence on me, and I think we're at the point now in music, in the music industry, where genres are blending in such a way where you don't have to be defined by a genre. You just you define yourself by being authentic to how you want to share your gift, and so that's what we're just trying to do, is just be authentic, and I'm glad it's coming through finally. So thank you.
Well, are we ever going to? If we were ever going to hear a duet between you and Daughtry?
It's funny you say that because my team actually just brought that up the other day. We were just in Beaver Creek, Colorado at an event, and I played, for some important music industry people, and they all brought that up. So I'm kind of waiting for the right time. I don't want to make that big ask too soon, but I think if we get a little love on country radio these next few months or next year, that could definitely be something that would be possible, and that would be awesome.
Hey, hey. Well, we're just going to believe that that's going to happen. Now, I understand. Were you actually the first recording artist to perform a concert inside the Capitol building?
Yes.
How did that happen?
I don't know. um, yeah, that goes back to God just placing the right people around me and His timing. In April, I was introduced to this lady. Her name is Stacy Stavola, and she's become my manager, really my partner in crime. And it begins and ends with her and I. She's actually here with me right now in Washington D.C. and for this Elizabeth Dole Foundation gala. But she just believes that nothing's too big to accomplish. So she just made it happen, and she's taken relationships that we've created and turned them into just beautiful moments in time. And so That was another one with Richard Liu, and where they wanted to showcase the film inside the U.S. Capitol, and we were invited to perform before and after the film. And so, technically, they said afterwards, I was approached, and they said, technically, you were the first ever live concert artist to perform inside these walls, outside of the Star Spangled Banner. I was like, that's a pretty big deal.
That is a very, very big deal. I mean, that trumps ever singing the national anthem at a baseball game.
Yeah, yeah, it sure does. Yeah, it means a lot to me. We've become really my best friend's a Marine. So people that serve our country and the infrastructure of our government. I don't take it lightly, and I'm having to educate myself now more than ever because we're getting thrown into events like this. And like I said, we're in D.C. right now, to honor military caregivers. So man, it's so important to honor these men and women that sacrifice their lives and their families. Come second to their country. So it means a lot for me to be a part of this and to make my way into being the future president of the United States. No, I'm just kidding.
Hey, you'd probably get a bunch of votes for that, by the way.
I don't want to say that. Oh man,
Well,
that sounds very stressful.
well, Jay, do you have any goals you wish to achieve, or anything on your bucket list?
Yeah, I think all of us have goals. We have, but for me, I've gotten to the point. I think, where I just have very, very high hopes and low expectations, just because I know the way that I envision how things are going to go. Probably going to be completely different, and the painting's going to turn out more beautiful, though. So I'm really pitching hard to. We've been creating a relationship with the Grand Ole Opry, so I did watch my wife last year have her Opry debut, so we're pitching for that, trying to do it at the right time too. Like I said, everything that I do, I don't want to be just about me. I want it to encompass other people. So we're trying to get in there soon. Hopefully, wrap it around an event where we can give back towards a charity like the National Alzheimer's Association. So that's one of them. Pitching for a spring tour, and then if we can get this song on country radio and chart it. Like I said, it's not about making me famous. It's about how can I expand my audience to meet people where they are and help just that one person that needs it in that moment. So again, that's what we're trying to do. We'll see where the Lord leads, but I'm all in. So, and we can't
Hey,
accomplish it. We can't accomplish it without awesome humans like
well,
you. So, and sharing our stories. So, thank you, Dr. Ward.
well, you're very, very welcome. And all the Lord ever asks us to do is to be ready, to be willing, and to be available. And you're all three of those things. So I know that as your popularity continues to rise and your star continues to shine brighter, uh, it's going to be helping a lot of people, not with just listening to your music, but also learning more about Alzheimer's and what we can do about that. And not only that, supporting the caregivers. And ladies and gentlemen, Jay Allen, he sings from the heart, he sings from life experience, and you feel every word and note in his songs. So do something for me. Even for Jay, head over to jayallenofficial.com for his music, his tour dates, check out his merch, and if he comes to your town, buy a ticket and go see him because you will be absolutely blessed. And his songs, wow, I've become a brand new fan. I mean, this guy has what it takes. He is going to be an absolute superstar. Not in country. I think he's going to be crossing over between country and rock and back and forth because, hey, that's what music's all about. And Jay, I want to thank you so much for your time today and sharing us your heart and your music.
What a pleasure and a blessing. What a beautiful conversation. So, your family now. You're in, brother. Thank you so much for having me. What a
Well,
great
you are welcome back anytime, and with any future full LP and tour. Hey, you got to come back here and we'll talk about it.
I'm in. You say when, I'm there.
All right, and ladies and gentlemen, also go online today, look up the Alzheimer's Association, and there are many other organizations out there working very hard to find a cure for this disease. And if you know someone with Alzheimer's, reach out, show them some love, and not only that, help those who are caring for them as well. We cannot forget our caregivers out there because it is a 24-hour, 7-day a week job, and it's never ending for some. So show them support and love and do what you can to be reaching out. Hey, isn't that what the Lord has taught us to do? To reach out, to bless others, to be a support? Because look, we're all in this together. And so let's help one another. And again, let's thank Jay Allen for his amazing work in shining a light on Alzheimer's and what we can all do together to help those that are dealing with the disease, and again, for the caregivers. So today I want to thank you for watching and for listening. And as for me, I'll see you next time.